The fourth country was France. They already had a few scientists working on the Manhattan Project and started their own nuclear program after World War II. They did collaborating with Israel but mainly focusing on energy instead of weapons. But that was until after the embarrassment of the Suez Crisis, and increasing tensions between the US and Soviets prompted France to want their own deterrent strategy. So the French president, Charles de Gaulle, spearheaded the effort and stated that nuclear weapons were essential for France to be a truly sovereign and great power. He also wanted strategic independence from NATO and the United States. They sourced uranium from its colonies in Niger, Gabon and Madagascar, which was a huge help. And successfully carried out their first test in 1960 called the Gerbeus Blue. Before proceeding, if you don't want to miss the valuable content, then do subscribe. You can find related videos in the description below. China would be the fifth country on the list wanting their own nukes as a deterrent against the US. Initially they received a lot of help from the Soviet Union as they saw China as a useful ally, but as Khrushchev began de-Stalinizing China's chairman, the Mao denounced Khrushchev's as soft approach. This led to a rift between the two nations as Khrushchev withdrew all its help from the Chinese program, leaving to the rest of the work alone. China continued their development, and in 1964 the Chinese successfully detonated their first atomic bomb in the large dried-up lake of the Lop Nor region called Project 596. The sixth country was Israel, who is the only nation in the world to never actually acknowledge possessing nuclear weapons and have never declared they exist, but lots of details have leaked. As mentioned, the Israelis were working with the French since the 50s on nuclear energy, and France helped Israel build a secret nuclear facility in the Negev desert. While Israel's nuclear capabilities had been rumored and speculated all throughout the 60s, the big revelation came later in 1986. Mordechai Vanunu, an Israeli technician who worked at that Negev Nuclear Research Center, fled Israel and leaked to the British press a massive amount of photos and documents with proof. It's also believed from his leaks that Israel has developed thermonuclear weapons. The seventh country on the list is India. Like many others, expressed the need to have this latest technology after the Second World War, mainly for deterrence and protection from Pakistan and China. Research began in the 1940s but would take several decades to complete the process. This was accelerated after India lost the border war with China in the Himalayas in 1962. It had first been developing nuclear energy, getting supplies for its reactors from countries like Canada and the US while using them to develop weapons. The first test was successfully completed in 1974 with a code named Smiling Buddha in the desert of Rajasthan, which they called a peaceful nuclear explosion. This test drew worldwide condemnation and sanctions as India was using a Canadian reactor provided for energy purposes and because they refused to sign the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. This is where countries agree to set rules to limit the spread and use of such weapons. However, India did deliberately refrain from fully weaponizing the technology into warheads while theoretically researching the means to weaponize in case they needed in the future. Most Indian politicians were opposed to creating the nuclear weapons, so this led to delayed process and finally got completed in 1974. The next part will be available in the description below. If you don't want to miss the valuable content, please do subscribe.